more people signing up for shadowing, which Sam Shallow, our career person, does. And what she does is anybody who comes to her wanting a shadowing experience must first complete some of these inventories through Naviance so that they can get a starting point, and then go from the shadowing from there. So it really is. I don't see a lot of the younger kids using it outside of the classroom. Certainly juniors and seniors must use
We
it.
do encourage it though. Whenever we meet with them in a classroom environment, we say, please go home, play with this. There's so many areas where they can drill down, like if they were interested in a certain career, they can click on that. It will take it to, they love this part where they can find out how much, what the earning potential is. And then they can click and find out what schools are offering, that they can move those schools to a list. There's a lot of functionality that our 9th and 10th graders, even our 7th and 8th graders, aren't interested in using at this point. But we do encourage that.
And what would them use it for personal finance?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're absolutely right. They do use it for that too.
And what we're doing is, okay, after we go into the classroom, we'll do a Naviance blast to all the parents, saying this is what we have done. This is what we have just done with these students. The idea there is, I remember sitting years ago, sitting in the auditorium, and somebody said something about, it wasn't Naviance per se, but how do we know as parents? How do we know that you, whatever, the presentation was, how do we know that you're doing this? And it was a good question, and so what we're trying to say is, okay, let's send the information home, let's get the information to parents, and then parents would say, hey, I understand you did this in your classroom today, tell me about it, what did you come up with? Because we fully understand that we are, a piece, we're a piece of the puzzle that we want to continue or get the conversation to continue at home, in classrooms and things like that. So that's what we're trying to do there.
Is there a physical student success plan document each student has that can show their parents?
No, there isn't a physical student success plan. Ideally, we would love to have something, and it's easy for us to create something like that. I did a lot of research years ago when I was working at middle school, when this became a mandate. And like I said, the state has required us to have student success plans, but they haven't told us what that should look like. So nobody has, I haven't found a framework for what a physical student success plan looks like. As a matter of fact, I received an email blast from other school counselors this week asking that very same question. And without exception, all the other counselors that respond, because I do respond to all, they said that they use the components through Naviance. So if a student was moving from our district to another district, we could download all the information that we created in Naviance and pass that on. But there isn't a physical student success plan document.
Would the students feel that they have a success plan?
I'm sorry?
Would the students, if I asked the students,
No,
would
they probably wouldn't. And it's not something, it was like,
Then what's the
They have a
point?
plan for
So why-
success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we asked the same question.
Well, that's the thing, is we were, this is a state mandate that we were told to
But
do.
I feel like it's a pretty good mandate,
Agreed.
So,
And what it does is it drives us to make sure that we're focusing on those different components, of the school counseling as well as the school-wide initiative to look at career, focus on career, social and emotional, and regular academic pieces of the school environment. So absolutely, it's a great mandate. I wish it had been spelled out a little bit more clear.
We are open to
but that could be a
guidance
benefit
and-
if it's not spelled out. That
Right,
means
we
that
create
you
our own.
guys could
That's
write,
exactly
and then
right.
it's not mandated that this is how you have to do it, and it's so rigid. But, maybe junior and, seniors will see more of it as parents, but I don't see any of this right now as a parent. Even the email blast that you said, maybe you were mentioning more junior and seniors receive those, because I don't think I've received one of those emails saying, we've been in your student's class and this is what we've done. The student success plan, I'm gonna have to really, Rich he's first up, but I was really gonna hone in on that too.
Yep.
I don't know what that is, and I can go home and ask my child that, and they would look at me.
And
And that doesn't mean anything when you ask, you know, your kids sometimes, that everything's, I don't know, you know, nothing, so they can just, you could, you know, they move you along. But I'm a pretty involved parent, and I don't know much about the student success plans.
And neither do most districts. The student success plan is really supposed to be a district-wide, not a school counseling initiative. It's a district-wide initiative. I will tell you that there are a lot of components that involve the health curriculum, that involve, you know, regular academic curriculum. So what we've done is we've taken the best of what we have control over and put it into tasks that we can keep track of in Naviance. But you're right, your student's not gonna know that they have a student success plan. Most students throughout the state wouldn't have any idea what a student success plan is. But it is a framework for us to focus more on those tasks that we need to work with our students on.
Sure. I just have one little comment. My daughter said she finally met her guidance counselor when she had to get her course load approved. So I was a
What
little
year
bit.
is she?
She's a sophomore.
And quite honestly, we go into classes, so she might be in that section of this.
She's in the section that got transferred over to the other guidance counselor.
Fortunately, our staffing has changed, and we would love to have more consistency with that, and our plan is to have more consistency with that. And so that would hopefully not happen in the future. However, she probably met somebody her freshman year in one of her classes where we came in, it wasn't maybe not necessarily her counselor.
Mhm.
So that's possible.
But that was just the comment. The other thing that I had though was for Bob. Bob, this is the one budget you didn't touch. There's nothing cut here, and there's one line item, 351, that seems like it's screaming. It says transferring paper to CDs. Why do we need to do that this year?
Well, we didn't do it this year, actually, we gave back the money.
Right, but what I'm saying, it's in this budget, and why wasn't it cut? Because it seems like something, you know, that doesn't need to be done in this bad a budget. And it's a $2,500 line item, which would pay for some of the other things I want to put back in.
First, we have fallen behind on that because.
I understand that, but it's still not a priority, is what I'm saying. You know, if I had to look and prioritize things, I'd say it can stay in paper.
One of the things we've had to look at is secure storage and fireproofing records, so
Mhm.
I will take a look at it in that way.
Okay.
Yeah, the student success plan, I have a couple questions. How long has this been a mandate? How long has that in place?
I want to say probably 3 or 4 years.
I think it's 6. I think it's 7. Seems how it's a district-wide initiative, or should be, and it involves many disciplines. Would it be appropriate to, it almost sounds like it needs to be part of the curriculum, or integrated into the curriculum. Is that
And it is.
correct?
It is.
It is, okay.
Yes, there's many components that are integrated in the curriculum, especially in the health department.
Okay. But it's, so, maybe this is a question for Lauren. So is it something that's like just, does it exist as a separate curriculum item? Or is it just something that each department knows that it's something to focus on?
At the moment, what it exists as is something that is, there are parts of it that are done through development, and otherwise it is in the school counseling department.
Well, it almost, you know, if it's what I think it is, it would almost seem like it should be maybe in other areas too, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What's your take on that?
My take on it is that we do have student success plans for every kid, as far as, you know, meeting with kids, talking about their future, talking about their classes, you know, getting to know them as individuals. It's like we care about the kids so much. I mean, that goes without saying for all of us, but as far as writing it down, that's where we're falling short. As far as sharing it with the community, that's where we're falling short. And I think that, you know, we need to put together a package clearly, and have that available to families and have that available to parents. And I think we just need to package it differently. I think what we're doing is, we're addressing many of the things that are supposed to be addressed on the student success plan. I totally agree with that. You know, we have an opportunity here. And, you know, I don't want to be told what to do and how to do it. I like the idea of how do we want to do this. And so, you know, I think that's, you know, we need to package it differently. And the fact that kids don't know the term concerns me less than, you know, parents not knowing the term and having something that we can share, whether that be online or however is most easily done. It does nobody any good to put it in a folder. I have a folder for each of my students. You know, I have notes on each of my students. I have, you know, information and plans, but I don't hand it to the parents until and unless they come in and we talk about it. So we need to package it differently.
I think the number one out of this whole student success plan is really what I heard you just say about the interacting with the students. And I feel, in my opinion, is that doesn't happen. So, you know, I'm a smart person. I could read between the lines on why that's not happening as much as, you know, probably the board feels or parents feel. I get that, but that's where we need to be. Taking the time and writing it on a piece of paper to send it to a parent. I'd rather you spend more time trying to figure out how to actually meet with the children and really get to know them, because you're an adult meeting with our children, and that relationship, every relationship that the teachers, the administration, everyone makes with their student is extremely important. And your role as guidance, I feel, is very important for you to interact with our children more than you do today. Starting from right when they enter the middle school until they leave. I know the interaction probably increases, you know, in junior and senior year, that's great. But I would like to see that interaction happen more in the middle school so they can have you and, you know, understand what the guidance counselor role really is, and develop that success plan so, you know, they can take that with them. So then the junior and senior, maybe it'll make it a little bit easier for you folks, junior and senior, because they will have interacted with their guidance counselor a little bit more in the beginning. The piece of paper, yes, it's important. As a parent, I would like to see something, but I would rather have my daughter come home and say, I met with my guidance counselor today and this is what we discussed, which for the first time, and she's in 9th grade now, and for the first time she mentioned, Jay, you're her guidance counselor, you know, you're great. And, you know, she was excited. She came home this conversation and told me all about the conversation she had with Jay, and she says, you know, these are the things I really want to do, but that's happening in 9th grade. I would rather have that happen sooner than in 9th grade.
And I think it is happening more and more.
Maybe now, but
it really is, because we've been able to distribute things a little bit better in the middle school, so that they're making much more of that connection at this point. And I'll be honest with you, that day that I met with her, it was, something clicked. And I had met with her many times before that, and it didn't hit until that day. So we're waiting for, maybe not waiting, but we're working towards that something to click.
Well, Jay, just to be honest, so the board knows and we all are on the same page, she's had more interaction with you in 9th grade than she ever has with any of her guidance counselors throughout the year. So maybe the dynamic of both of you is taking over November, you see it, you're gonna make changes, that's great. It's very promising to me, and I'm happy to hear it, but I just wanna express some of the concerns that I've been seeing in the past,
And that's
hopefully we can improve upon it.
Also, just to add to that conversation, you talked about packaging it differently, and maybe you need to package it differently to the other teachers in the various departments, because they're the ones who can see, you know, what's emerging in the students in terms of what their interests are and what they excel at or what they're excited about, where their passions lie.
So, I think that, you know, it sounds like a lot of kids don't know what the student success plans are, and that's fine. I would agree, they probably don't statewide, but it might be a good idea, if they saw it as their guidance goals or their life goals or something, because there's some value in doing that. Because, you know, I think, you know, we've had, as a great experience with guidance, but I think that actually getting the idea that these are some goals with the guidance helping direct that just would be really important, because there's so many careers, and I think that's why that science was so interesting over the weekend, that there are careers that kids haven't even thought about. You know, there's so many things out there for kids. So just for them to even consider, or how to consider. One of the things on Naviance, because I heard a couple of kids talking about it that they did for personal finance, they said, like, is there something you would never want to do? And one of them would never want to oversee fish in a fish hatchery. But it was kind of an interesting, like, the why, but also, like, not just what they want to do, but what they don't want to do.
It's a valuable exercise.
Yeah, yeah.
We, you know,
Yeah.
whenever we do
Yeah.
the do what you are, invariably, there somebody in the classroom comes up and says, hey, I'm gonna be an embalmer. I'm like, actually, you may not be an embalmer, but you may, but it's in the list of things that could appeal to somebody with your likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
So look at that if you'd like to, and especially since we do a lot of this with 10th graders, and their maturity level is, you know, hey, I'm gonna be an embalmer, not, oh, wow, I could go to, do astrophysics.
Yeah.
So we do, you know, when they say that, we recommend, that's great, look at that career a little bit more and see if that does fit your personality.
Right. I just think, though, that to know what you don't want to do is valuable too.
Absolutely, and
you
that's
know?
another valuable
Right.
part of the job shadowing
Right,
piece.
sure. Yeah.
You know, a lot of kids come to us and say, hey, I wanna shadow somebody I wanna shadow a midwife. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And they go, and they're like, what, that's not what I wanna do. So that's just as valuable, and we say that all the time. So, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think your budget presentation turns into I don't know, a review.
Thank you. How are you?
I wanted to just say that I appreciate the fact that when you guys, you come here, you signed up last year too, and then you signed up again this year. That it does become quite like I don't want to say a firing range, but we're throwing questions at you, and I just want to acknowledge that I imagine that's difficult. I wanted to point out, like, I did check out the website, I did get the email blast, actually 3 times, I was pleased, I don't care.
You got hers.
I got it 3 times, but I did go on the website and it looks great. And I just wanted to know, like, that both of you have done a great job for my family, and I appreciate both of you greatly. I do have concerns about the guidance department, but I don't look at, I just see you two coming into this again, signing on to be leaders, but then it's interrupted and it's discombobulated. So what we're asking you to do, or what you're coming to present, is you're here from November. We're not, like, and I just want to acknowledge that we're handing you a mess, like, again. And because we've had staff turnover and stuff, so.
We're looking at it as a challenge, not as a mess.
Right, and though I have high expectations for guidance as a whole, I think that the disconnect or the lack of constant leadership has been a problem for the department as a whole. And for us to see the movement or the growth that maybe I would be expecting at this point. I think that we talked about it at the program committee as well, about how the whole structure isn't set up for you both coming in and saying, okay, this is our vision, this is what we want to see happen. And I think that's a flaw in how it's set up at this point in time, because you're essentially shadowing, you're leading your peers.
which can be a challenge, I imagine, when people are looking to you to actually maybe supervise them and make changes in personnel or make changes in how things are going. They're gonna be calling you to say when they have complaints, and that's that's difficult. So I just wanna, I guess, acknowledge the difficulty I see in the guidance department as it is. We love Molly, she's great, she's very attentive, she's, follows through, she's on top of it, and she's everything that we'd want a guidance counselor for a kid who's gonna be entering his senior year. She's very attentive to my daughter as well. The student success plan kinda gets my hair on the back of my neck up, because I see so much promise in it as a concept of the student success plan being started in 6th grade to give kids a vision, and I think getting to know, I mean, they might not know what it is, I think it's important that they know what it is, because as with knowing the expectations of what you are, what you have to do, you know, this is my student success plan, it's a living document, and this is who I am, and I'm gonna change a bunch of times, and I'm gonna revisit this, and this is how I'm evolving from 6th grade on. I just think there's so much promise, and that's for the kids that are struggling academically and maybe don't see a vision for themselves. It's supposed to help them engage further. I mean, I guess you guys know that, but I don't know if my fellow board members do. It's to help engage kids so that they can see beyond today, so they can see a vision for the future, so they can maybe get up to the motivation and persevere through high school.
And while it might not be a living document right now, it is part of our day-to-day interaction with the students. Everything you've mentioned there is stuff that we're striving to do for our students, so.
Right, and I get that, I just think that beginning in 6th grade, knowing that this is what this is and this is what it's gonna be, I'm always hopeful that the student success plan is more than what it is today. The parents that don't know about it, or the kids that aren't sure about it at this point, and like, I'm saying this to you, I'm not blaming you. I hope that's clear, I'm not blaming you, I see this as a leadership issue. And how as one of my board members has talked about how it could be maybe embedded in the curriculum, like, this is beyond just guidance, this is student success plan, this is career development, this is college development, this is big thing, like, we're talking about college all through, like, the student success plan should be on our kids' mind. It should be embedded in their day-to-day activities. Naviance should be embedded in, like, what they're doing. Like, I don't know that the advisory program is what it should be. And I think that the advisory program should be beefed up, especially in the middle school, where they could be going on to their Naviance and spending 15 minutes instead of going and asking for extra help or doing silent sustained reading or whatever it is. Like, have a place, a weekly time where they're getting onto Naviance. So when I say to my kid, what's your login? They know it. I'm not emailing the guidance counselor again to say, tell me again what the login is.
And we tell them, please put it in your phone somewhere where you will remember it.
Right. And so I guess I see this, I see it as there's a lot of hope for guidance, and I hope that with just the new leadership coming in, that we'll maybe see different.
Well said. I echo a lot of things. You know, I've been on here for 3 years, and I was a senior this year, and I have twin juniors. And my senior is a self-motivated child. My twins are. Have you talked to your guidance counselor yet? No. You're gonna get on. You know, is she doing this or is she doing that? No, we don't hear anything. You know, I go back to my own high school days. You know, back in East Hartford. You know, I got called down. I met my guidance counselor at least twice. You know, twice a month, and she worked with me to, you know, develop where I want to be. I had no idea what I wanted to be until I was my senior year. I figured out I still had no idea what I wanted to be, and she just sat me down and said, this is what you're good at, and, you know, this is what I think you should go and try and do. I don't see that here, at least with my kids. I think everybody else has got interaction with, you know, one-on-one with teachers, and I think that's the problem. This is more of a one-on-one, special circumstances. You're more like, you're not guidance counselors, you're more, I'm not saying you ladies in general, but I mean, the department has had so much turnover. I feel bad that there is no direction in this department for the kids. You know, it's if they're not the high flyers, they're you know, the 504s, you have 196 kids, and now we need a coordinator for that. That tells me something. That tells me a lot. That who's getting the attention, you know? So we can all read between the lines here, and, you know, 3 years, you know, I think Amy has probably the most experience on this board talking about children, because she worked with, you know, juvenile children. And she brings a lot to the table, and I've listened to her, and my eyes have been completely open, you know, where this is, if any department in our school, I think this is the most underfunded, understaffed, and has the most benefits to our kids of what their kids are gonna go on to be. The teachers give them the guidance and the knowledge, and then you gotta put it together in a package, you know? And we're lacking, seriously, we're behind the times, you know, and I think to Sue's point, you got the mandates, you need to build the program, the guidance department needs to build a program where it's gonna work for our students from 6th all the way up. We don't need the state to tell us that, they gave us the mandates, we will build off that program, but I don't think it's there, and I'm listening to you ladies, and it's clearly isn't there, it's getting there. But then we have the turnover, and I don't know about the turnover, I'm not privy to that, why we've had problems in, you know, guidance counselors leaving, but we need to fix this, you know, and you're asking for a new coordinator, more hours in secretarial. What else do we need in this department? Because we were here last year and we were in the same boat, and I don't think we've had the progress based on what I hear.
The thing that I would ask for, most importantly, is time. Jeannie and I have been on board since the end of November in this role. We plan to do it at least another year, because we understand that the continuity is a key component of this. And through that, our plan for next year is that right now we maintained our current case level. Any of the other coordinators, they teach a reduced number of classes. We haven't cut anything out because we felt it was too disruptive at this point to reassign some of our students to other counselors. But through next year, with the new freshman class coming in, we're gonna have smaller caseloads so that we can dedicate more time to these specific concerns. That's our intent. So that's really what I'm asking for, is just time and patience with us as we develop this a little bit finer. We're doing a lot of what's already been asked for in the student success plan. We're just not documenting it and communicating it as well as it could be. We would love to free up more of our time so that we can do much more of that individual meeting with the students in going over those results that they've done in their English class or their health class. So I hope that we're not asking for too much when we ask for the time.
No, I don't think you're asking for too much. I just, you know, I think we've, you know.
Joe, go to yours. Where in the budget are these two positions? Because there's only a 4% increase.
I'm sorry.
There aren't.
There's only a 4% increase to this line item, so where are these are they in the budget? These two positions.
Are in the budget, because if you would recall, I had indicated that I would be reallocating half the guidance counselor from the middle school to the high school to provide additional resources. Because with the loss of a team, we will be able to plug in additional resources at the high school.
What
Will that
about-
person be able to be a 504 coordinator?
Yeah, where's
Could
the,
be,
Or is that person trained?
I'm sorry?
You know which person's gonna be coming up, is that person trained to be a 504
I
coordinator?
think that those are the things we need to look at once this is finalized, but that's the additional help we were looking at.
So we don't have a 504 coordinator in our budget?
No.
No, because
And do we have that extra secretarial time in our budget?
I think that the secretarial time is in the budget, I didn't cut it.
So I'm a little bit, and this is not my area obviously, but who writes currently, who should be writing the 504 plans?
Each counselor.
Each counselor.
Right, so.
I had 8 504 students about 3 years ago, I have 25 this year. And I'm not saying poor me or whatever, I'm just saying things have changed significantly over the years about where our time has to be allocated. And, there is a group of students out there, I wish you knew them. There's a group of students out there that are very appreciative of the time that we give them. And a lot of parents out there who think that we do respond very well to situations and that we are extraordinarily helpful in their situations. So it's embarrassing to hear when somebody hasn't met their counselor. That said, Dr. Szymanski has his advisory program, and one day, I remember you asked, he said, all right, who hasn't met their counselor yet? You have freshmen last year, who hasn't met their counselor yet? One kid raised his hand. My student, Dr. Szymanski, came to see me and he said, you haven't met with this kid yet. And I said, Joe? I said, Joe, who plays soccer, who I say hi to every single day in the hall between 4th and 5th period, whose parents are Karen and Brian, whose sister is going here to college. I haven't met him yet. I'm not kidding you. This is a kid I talk to every day. But I think the question he was answering was, have you come in, have you sat down and had a meeting with Mrs. Knuts? No. I see him at church. You know, I mean, this is a kid who knows me. And so I respect fully what you're saying. I appreciate all the feedback. But I also have kids who, you know, may or may not recognize what a relationship is when you are in 9th and 10th grade. It doesn't have to be the formal necessarily. It's formality of the relationship. It could be that we're in cafeteria talking to the kids, or that we're, you know, I mean, we try to get out there. We try to see the kids as much as possible and have them see us. Honestly, that's why we put our pictures on the website. I hate my picture on the website. I put it there because we want kids to start to recognize and say, that's my counselor, not just that's somebody who says hi to me in the hall every day. So we've taken a lot of notes. We want to fill the holes that aren't being filled at this point. We want to have every kid know us, and for us to know every kid. I can honestly say that I know most of my students. I know something unique about most of my students. And it may not be everything about them, but that's all of our jobs, you know, is to kind of know.
How do you reach the shy kids though?
You know what I do, honestly? I go through my freshmen, and this would never check a box as far as a kid or perhaps a parent. I go through all of my freshmen, I see where they're gonna be, and I set up meetings. I might be there outside their foods class or outside their science class and say, hey, just wanted to reintroduce myself, because we do need everybody coming up from 8th grade. Just want to reintroduce myself, you know, Mrs. Kmetz, I noticed you got an A on this test. Something small, so that they don't fear coming to see me. So that they know that I'm fairly normal and hopefully approachable. And so it's those little things that we all try to do. We had a meeting with our new counselors today and said, get out there, get out of your offices, which they all do anyway, but if you have 5 minutes, walk around the halls. Walk around the house, even if they don't know you, go up to somebody in the library and say, hey, you guys, did you do your scheduling? Or what? The question doesn't matter. It's about the relationship. And so we're really trying to get out there and continue to do that. And check the boxes that need to be checked. And so we'll do
It's gonna be
it.
overwhelming, but I tried to do some of the after-school things. Today I was throwing pots, you know, a bunch of the students with the empty bowls.
Like ceramic
My
pots.
hands are a mess. But, you know, the play coming up, and we love to connect with the students afterwards and say, hey, I saw you, you did a fantastic job in that. But that's day-to-day stuff. It's the more important stuff is, I loved it when she did really well on her tests, and I got to email you, I'm like, good news! You know, where we try to do that, we can't do it on a day-to-day basis, but we like to have that contact with both the parents and with the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for a lot of information here, and I think it's one other question.
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to talk about the 504 piece again, especially after what Bob mentioned about the .4.
0.5.
.5, okay. You have 196 students, it states here. I'm gonna say you're asking for a full-time person here, even though it's not in the budget, I understand that. Is even a full-time person enough for 196 students?
That's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure that it is enough. But it's a start.
Mhm.
It's a step in the right
So
direction.
would your plan be, and you may not know this, but just say you did get a full-time resource, would your plan be that some of the counselors still maintain some of the 504 and gradually move?
So the 504 plan can vary from student to student. You know, some of them have, you know, preferential seating or, you know, time extensions on tests and quizzes. But there are quite a few number of students that have, you know, check-ins with counselor or school psychologist. And that would still be maintained by the school counselor, in my opinion. What we would look for a 504 coordinator, somebody with the knowledge on the day-to-day 504s. We have a number of students right now who are going through issues with social emotional issues where they just can't come to school. And we have a number of therapists and pediatricians that are allowing this to happen by sending us documentation that says, please excuse the student from school.
For the rest of the year.
And we're like, no, we can't do that. So we need to know, we need to have a better understanding of what legally we can push forward with. And quite honestly, that takes a lot of time and effort to then go back to that therapist and say, we need to work with you on a transition plan to get this student back into school, you know, even if it's day by day, period by period. And that piece right now is something that we don't have a very good handle on. And I know that, there've been a lot of questions that have come up. Those are the higher end 504s. Many of these 504s are not as, you know, time consuming as those are. But the ones that are time consuming, they take up everything.
Understand, okay, so if you were only to get the .5, then the transition of, you know, our hope and your ask for time, the time may be extended because you're not getting the full-time coordinator?
It would be a help, it would be a step in the right direction.
And we appreciate the .5. I mean, we've
Yeah.
talked to Dr. Szymanski and to Michael Cerci, and I mean, we appreciate that, and we'll use it wisely. I mean, we'll work together to use it wisely. It's with the 504, it's more about consistency. It's not that we don't know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Everybody has had, you know, some training in it, and we're getting more. Don Davis is trying to help us to get more training, and we're working with that. The issue is the consistency. And,
Oh, I hear you, Lana.
and the fact that it's a legal document. And so it's one of those things that, years ago, there was one person running all 504 meetings, writing all of the plans, and then saying, okay, you know, this is still your student, but it would be, the consistency was there. That has changed over the years. And, you know, initially, when I had 8 students on the 504 plan, not an issue. I got this, you know, not a problem at all. Now, with 25 students, and I'm just one example, 25 students, that's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about, you know, looking at a legal document and executing it perfectly. It's an issue. Jen mentioned it as far as co-teaching and things like this. It's not just a guidance issue. So,
Would it be helpful for you to meet with program meetings?
we've offered to do that, we would like
Some
to
of
do
these
that.
issues soon, sooner
Absolutely.
than later.
We've had those meetings over the years.
Okay, so one last question,
Yes.
the 504, your ask is full-time, but of course you'll take Kathy. Right, you get what you
The other piece of that, though, the training piece of it, I think that, in my opinion, we also need to train the staff overall, and do, some professional development around 504s and what the teachers, are expected and how this is a legal document. Although it is overwhelming for them to have all the IEPs and the 504s. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
thank you.
I meant to ask this question, I got sidetracked. So it also says you want to increase the functionality of the services by increasing hours of the guidance secretary. So for most of us, I would assume, myself anyways, what does that mean? Tell me what the secretary does currently. What's the position? Is it a half-day position, is it a shared position?
It's a full-day position, 12 month, and so she has, 4 grades essentially. Whereas middle school, they also have I'm not saying she doesn't work hard, but she, it's full-time position for 2 grades. So, she's dealing with, Sue Abbott-Marco, our secretary, has been there for a number of years, so she's fantastic. She does everything. I can't even begin really to fully explain what she does, but all the new registrations, all the withdrawals, all the new students coming in, keeping all of the documentation, paperwork, the proof of residency, things like that. She
Transfer of records when kids leave.
absolutely all the scholarship opportunities that come in. She got, I think, 7 more today. She has to go ahead and put them on the website. We help maintain our new website, but she does the bulk of that. She's interrupted every 30 seconds, honestly. And, she sits right in guidance. People come in, she greets them, she directs them. We have 6 counselors, 2 school psychologists, a social worker, our special ed coordinator, director of pupil services. Everybody
She's the point
goes
person.
through her. When parents come in, when students come in, it always happens. One thing that Jennifer Jecken had mentioned last year was that in her district, the guidance secretary scheduled individual meetings with all the students. That's not something we can ask Sue Abbott-Marco to do. And so we can ask her to do one more thing. Honestly, the bulk of her work there, what puts her over the edge, respectfully, is the registration process. It is so time consuming, and it might be that, she'll get, 3 new students this week, but then people want to withdraw, and it's incredibly time consuming. And so, that's, she either needs help or she needs more time.
So how much more time do you think she would need just for the registration process?
For the registration, in all fairness to her, I would say it would be at least 5 more hours a week.
So that's another half person.
She's
Or
at
wait, 5 more hours.
per week.
Like an hour a day.
Yeah, not 0.5.
Okay.
She could do more. She's a very smart individual. She could
She's
do
very
more
thorough.
if we,
Sounds like she's full-time, right?
She's
She is full-time.
Full-time.
So you want her to work above and beyond 40 hours?
she doesn't work 40 hours. She's at 37, I think.
37 and a half, that's a
37 and a
contract.
half.
But you want her to work 5 extra hours? Would that bring her to
No,
overtime?
they want a greeter, right?
Yeah.
Quite
Or
honestly,
somebody else
we would like to have a secretary and a registrar.
That's what we would want.
If in a perfect world, if we could have both, that would make things much more smooth.
And Scott worked with us last year to get her a few extra hours for the beginning of the school year. And even that was, she felt better about the job she could put in. But having a more consistent 40-hour week or 42-hour week or whatever we can offer to her, that would be certainly helpful to her, but also very helpful to us as a department. It's one person dealing with and managing a whole bunch of people in that area.
And this situation has been going on for a long time.
Yes, yes.
And it hasn't, with the increased expectations on our end, you know, it's sort of, we try to take as much off of Sue as possible so that she can do the day-to-day functionality of her job. But when we book in for students or students sign up to see us, that's every 6 counselors, every period, twice, is an
20
intro.
minutes, yeah.
Every 20 minutes, she's calling another counselor, just here to see you, send them on down. It's not just a gatekeeper, because she's also answering all the phones and, you know, directing those phone calls. And in addition, trying to do all the paperwork that registration is. It's consuming, all consuming. If you went by her desk, you'd always see the stacks that are piled high. And she does a very good job.
And if that person is out for an extended period of time, sick, who takes over that? Is that you? Give a fill-in, or?
She was out for a personal reason last year, and for about a week and a half, and we're very fortunate to have very hardworking people in the department, 2 additional secretaries, both for special education. They filled in. We filled in. We sat at her desk. We did that as well. And by we, I mean every counselor.
Thank you.
You have a physical vision, goals, and planning document that you could send to the board?
We have that document that we produced, what, a year and a half ago, that has
The
our.
sub-study
sub-study.
with our mission.
You never created a vision or set some goals?
Oh, we did that.
Yeah, it was all in that
It's in
document.
It's in there.
We can resend that, absolutely. Yeah.
That would be a good start. It needs a lot of work, but at least we know where it's at.
And this is something that we produced, not last year, but the year before, and there are pieces in that that have changed. But a lot of the vision and the goals and everything that remains the same. But we'll certainly take a look at that and resend it to you. And we can tell you what changes have come up.
Just one more question for Dr. Lindsay. This has been discussed for a few years that I've been on the board, and probably before that. How should we resolve all these issues that were raised?
How should we resolve it?
All the issues that have been raised.
Well, I think that one of the ways we try to address it, and trying to be recognizing some of the constraints that we face, is that the moving of the halftime counselor. And I think that person can be, one of the things to look at, and we haven't sat and talked about that person's going to be. That could be your 504 coordinator, who take care of those things, and reducing the load. And we can double check on the clerical overtime, and making some shifts in the office overtime, in the office structure at the high school. So we're going to take a look at that and see how we can use that to help guidance.
Do you have attendance secretary?
I'm sorry?
Is there an attendance secretary?
There is, and I'd rather not talk about that at this particular time, because there's some issues that personnel related that I can't talk about.
I guess my thought is that, hearing the stuff that the guidance secretary does, I don't know if it seems that giving her 5 hours would solve the problem of her being interrupted every 5 minutes. And that maybe looking at this as, somebody who can go in and answer phones while somebody does some.
Yeah, and I essentially agree with you, and I'm trying to work on that, but I need to resolve one issue before I can move down that street.
But I guess my concern is that this is budget season, and like this issue's been going on
So I'm trying to do
forever.
it, I'm trying to do it with the same person.
I'm not in support of.
No, for this role, it's going to.
I wouldn't,
My question on that is, you're giving up a half person in the middle school, so question for Dr. Sarusi, why are we giving up a half a person in the middle school, doctor? Tell me, enlighten me, I'm missing something here.
You don't like putting me on the spot, don't you, Jim?
I just want the answers, I
The
don't like,
answer-
you know,
okay, the
I just
answer
feel like
to-
what we have.
So the caseload right now for each of the counselors in the middle school is 2 teams. There is one counselor that has 1.5 teams at the moment. And so next year, when we go down to 5 teams, that counselor, or a counselor would have only 1 team. The other 2 counselors will have 2 teams apiece.
And a team consists of how many students?
About 100 kids. So they'll have about a caseload of 200 apiece. Except for the one who would have 100. And so that person would free up to do half-time, either assist, we have some ideas around assisting the high school, and some counseling efforts.
And that's because of declining enrollment, correct?
Yeah.
Because of the wave that's coming up from the elementary school.
But
And
I
will
have to
continue
interject.
go down.
Sure.
It goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, that and I only know from experience, okay? My daughter wasn't getting what she needed in the earlier years in middle school. And, you know, if I read between the lines and hear some of the counselors, because I made myself known, they didn't have time. So I'm feeling like, yes, they're decreasing a team, so in theory, the numbers look like, yeah, we have an extra body that we can move over to help out with the 504, but I don't really think we have that extra body. If we left that body there, maybe they could get to our students and meet our students. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Well, I think the
But
standard is 250.
Dr. Smith,
Huh?
what's your
I think the
thought on that?
standard is 250.
I think that there are resources that we all need. You can hear all the departments need resources. But remember, we're trying to look at this budget through the lens of the fiscal times that we're in. And unfortunately, we have to make some decisions. And those decisions are not ones that I like. I try to be equitable in, for example, looking at world language textbooks. They didn't get textbooks last year because they got some the year before. I'm just trying to spread the growth. And then looking at the decrease in teams, I thought that it would be best to bring a person up to the high school to answer the 504. You know, if you want to add a person, believe me, I'll take it. I'm in the process of trying to work with the high school and restructuring a position. I can't talk about it anymore because of this personnel, it's a personnel issue.
That's for the guidance secretary you're talking about.
To help address that issue
Okay,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's getting late and, we still have a number of other items. Unless there's something outstanding, I think we can.
Well, I'd like to just close, because, you know, I think we've been rough on you two tonight, and it's not, like Amy said, this isn't personal, this is just how we're feeling, and, I appreciate you guys taking it with, still, you guys are both smiling still, so that's a good thing. But we are willing to give you time. I think some of the board members that have been on here a lot longer than I have feel like, you know, we've been giving it time and we're not seeing much progress. But I understand that I know you personally, you know, through my daughter, and I hear wonderful things about you. So I do feel like you guys can, you know, make a difference, but you can't make a difference if we're not adding the right bodies to the mix here. That's how I feel at the end. So thank you very much for putting up with us tonight.